Are you ready?
I don't think there's anybody in America who thinks that we've got an energy policy that works the way it needs to. And that gives opportunities for Democrats and Republicans to come together and think about whether it's natural gas or energy efficiency. How do we move forward on that agenda?
All right. Like every president before him, our current president renewing, yes, yesterday, the call for energy independence in his big news conference after the election. From terrorism to all the jobs we haven't created, searching for domestic energy in this country, the reasons to get off of foreign oil, let alone Middle East sourced oil, are abundant and obvious, especially when you consider that the United States is to so many resources, from wind to natural gas, what Saudi Arabia and Iran are to oil. We have immense energy resources in this country. We just have not yet figured out the best way to access them. How do we do that? It's a question sparking fierce debate in this country. A new film about a specific drilling technique called hydraulic fracturing, or fracture drilling, they call it fracking, raises concerns about the way we get natural gas out of the ground.
Think about the workers or the people whose yards or backyards or within 1,000 feet of their home have a well pad.
They can't get rid of the tanks and the fumes are all the time.
They're inhaling these chemicals 24/7 around the clock.
What's that smell?
I don't know. I can't smell anything.
And you lost your sense of smell and so did you?
That is one of the side effects of hydrogen sulfide exposure.
So how do we balance the need for energy independence, defunding our enemies, eliminating the need to fund war in the Middle East on the scale that we currently do, create millions of jobs at the same time, make a much more efficient country, simultaneously managing the safety and the fears that a shoddy regulatory structure whose issues have been driven home by the Deepwater Horizon disaster and the West Virginia coal mine tragedy, second perhaps to the SEC and the Fed, MMS, certainly appears to have some room for improvement. Joining us now, Josh Fox, the director and producer of GasLand, documentary film critically acclaimed on HBO. Pleasure to have you here. Before we get into the GasLand and natural gas, you do agree that the imperative to remove our dependence on foreign oil, if not Middle Eastern oil, could not be more compelling.
Well, I think we get the majority of our foreign oil from Canada.
No, I'm aware. But that doesn't. But that's a distraction. In other words, Canada is not funding terrorism against our country. I know where we get our oil as well as you do. 5 million barrels of the oil that we do get goes to the Middle East. At the very least, do you discount the fact that stopping to send money out of our country in that way, when half of our trade deficit comes from foreign energy, is a worthy consideration?
Well, I wouldn't challenge that, but I do think that we need to get off of fossil fuels entirely. And what we're seeing here with natural gas, this push to drill for natural gas, we're in the largest domestic onshore natural gas drilling campaign in history.
Yeah.
It's going on in 34 states, and there are huge areas here that are being drilled, and these are areas where people live, and they're areas that are also connected to major cities' water supplies.
So your point is not that you contest the need to get off of foreign oil or foreign resources that way, but that you contest the validity of natural gas as a bridge fuel to get us where we need to go. Fair?
Well, absolutely. A bridge fuel that would cost us $700 billion, $350 billion for power plants, and $350 billion for pipelines that are going to be eminent domaining through everyone's backyard.
Understood.
But my point, though, is that this form of natural gas drilling is contaminating, inherently contaminating to water supplies, and that is an irreversible and irrevocable process. When you've contaminated an aquifer, you can't go back. You have to treat that water at the surface, and that is prohibitively expensive. That's an expense that goes on forever.
So let's go with some of the assertions in your film, because both the industry and various government agencies contest it. And so let's talk about the issue of the gas being in the water, first of all. No one contests that the gas is in the water from time to time. For the frequency, you would know better than me. Other people would know better than I don't claim to have knowledge.
It's quite common in these areas, these complaints, that people can all of a sudden light their water on fire right out of the tap after drilling occurs.
The industry response, the government response is the distance between the aquifer, and I don't know if we have the actual map that shows where the aquifer is and where the fracking reserves are, can be a matter of miles. And if there is gas that appears in the aquifer, which is just beneath the surface of the Earth, it is happening naturally. It's a naturally occurring event. It is not an event that's associated with the hydraulic fracturing. There's the picture there.
Right.
Are they wrong?
Well, I mean, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection just ordered a municipal pipeline to go to one of these towns where they proved that this thermogenic natural gas is coming from the deeper shale layers. They can do isotopic testing of that gas.
I'm aware.
And natural gas drilling can liberate both the biogenic and the thermogenic gas because it shakes up the ground. You're talking about injecting toxic chemicals by the millions of infused in water by the millions of gallons directly into the aquifer. I mean, directly into the shale formation.
I understand the process. I guess what I'm getting at is it a known fact that hydraulic fracture drilling is the cause of the gas being in the aquifer, or is it simply the fact that there is gas in the aquifer and there's a conclusion is being drawn that really is something that warrants more investigation as opposed to a conclusion?
PADEP says yes. Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission says yes. EPA is doing an investigation right now, and that investigation is currently on the line in terms of its funding. It absolutely needs to be investigated. This process has never been investigated.
Understood.
We've unleashed the largest onshore drilling campaign in United States history for natural gas, and we've never investigated the technique and the evidence from, people speaking is evidence. It's considered anecdotal evidence, but when you have this many complaints in this many places, and my film goes to about 25 different states, and I've toured around the country 3 times now, everywhere I go in these drilling areas, there are major, major concerns. Health problems from the air emissions that are happening. I mean, you have more air pollution from natural gas drilling in Dallas-Fort Worth than all of the cars and trucks in Dallas-Fort Worth, and that's the 4th largest major city in America. This is an incredibly environmentally destructive process, and it needs to be reined in.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Listen, I would love to continue this conversation with you and to elevate this conversation to some advocates of natural gas so that we can figure out, again, whether there's a way to get the natural gas out of the ground that doesn't do this, or whether, in fact, natural gas is, in fact, doing this. Would you be up for that?
I'd be extremely happy to do that. In the film, you can see I try to call and get interviews with the natural gas industry over and over and over again. They refuse to come to the table. They're in both denial mode and attack mode at the same time. They're attacking the families, they're attacking the film, and at the same time that they're denying that they have any hand in this. So I would love to go
We'll give them a call and see what we can do. Listen, a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Nice to talk to you.
All right, great.
Josh Fox, GasLand's the movie. We are back here, the Turk, ready to roll.